the basic concept is that I want to talk about what's going to make you successful in the future, right? Because in the end, that's what you want to know. And the current education system is not going to give that to you. Because at this point, you pretty much understand that all of you are being trained to compete with a smartphone. You're being asked to memorize information, then you're being graded on how well you regurgitate that information on the test. Nowhere in life is that going to be your work. Nowhere. So you're doing that in high school, you're going to be doing that in college, and you're going to get out and you're going to be in a job that asks for something altogether different, right? So 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, 8 years, and high school you say, well, okay, fine, it's whatever. But then college, you're going to be forking out, $100,000, $120,000 for that, and you got to wonder, okay, what is this going to get me? Other than this degree. And at this point, Google, Microsoft, others are going, okay, the students leaving college, we can't even hire them, so they don't even care about your college resume. They give you tests anyway, and what they're testing is your creativity. And the one thing not being taught in high school or college is creativity. So that's what we're going to talk about, because in the end, that's what is going to make you successful. Now, I want to talk about what you want to know rather than what I want to say. So if you have questions, if you even think about that, hey, if you want to interrogate me, if you have a thought, if you have a question, ask away, because I'd rather, again, talk about what you want to know. But I'll basically go into what creativity is, why being a musician is the way to stimulate it, right? And
hey, Todd, do you want to periodically remind them to ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely. What, Ty, you see everyone there. If somebody raises a hand, interrupt or speak out, I mean,
I'm not going to do this. So how about you guys raise your hand? Okay.
So a lot of us are seniors, and I've been on a few college visits in like the past couple of months. A lot of colleges, I feel like, are kind of marketing that they're trying to teach kids how to learn and how to, like, I guess, quote unquote, be more creative. But do you think they're actually changing, like, their curriculum is going towards a more kind of that route with route that's going to be more beneficial for the students, or do you think they kind of just market like that because that's what people want?
It's BS marketing.
Yeah.
It's BS marketing because let me tell you something. You can't understand something unless you explain it as a process, right? So ask any one of those teachers and administrators, explain to me what creativity is as a process, and they're not going to be able to do it. So if you can't explain what you're doing as a process, then you don't know what you're doing. I go a step further. I say, if you can't explain what you're talking about as a process, then you don't know what you're talking about. So any teacher and any administrator that says over teaching creativity, they don't have a process. They'll say, well, we try to get the students here, go over here and talk together and work together. And sometimes creativity happens when they're alone. And sometimes creativity happens when they just get out of bed. That's not a process. That's like a wing and a prayer. So we have to get into what creativity is as a process. And that's where, I'm talking about where music is stimulating creativity, because I can talk about it as a process. One of the things that we'll share with you afterward is I have an article I wrote that was published nationally about how Einstein used playing a violin. He was a violinist. He was a real good violinist. He used that for creativity and stimulate creativity. And people thought, oh, he's just doing that for fun or for interest. No, that was part of the stimulation for creativity. So in answer to your question, they don't know what they're talking about. If they say, well, we have half the tests that anybody else has, and therefore you can be more creative. That's not creative. Again, they don't know what it should be done as a process. Now, making you memorize information and regurgitate it on a test, they know that as a process, right? And so they're really, really good at it. And the issue is that for thousands of years, humans have been memorizing information, right? And so they're just continuing it now. But for thousands of years, when you memorize information, that was always used for survival and success, right? So if you memorize information, how to make metal out of ore that nobody else knew, then you can make swords, you can make weapons, and all of a sudden your town, your village, your city, your state can now win wars. You memorize how to grow crops. So all the information was always used for survival and success. Now the information is used to regurgitate on the test. And the issue is that what you guys are doing subconsciously, what you don't even know, is that you are defending yourself by memorizing information, regurgitating it on a test, and then forgetting it. Like when you leave high school, I bet everything you remember could be put on like a note card. It's not going to be much, because what you've done is you've really forgotten, a lot of it, until you really need to bring it up, because that's a self-defense mechanism, because everything can be looked up here, right? So that's long answer to your question, but yeah, they don't know what they're talking about, because you need to understand creativity as a process, and then you need to work around what'll stimulate creativity and how to use it. So the number one thing that stimulates creativity is art and music, and they're both the same thing. There's volumes are written about what is art, what is music, flowery language, academic language. In the end, it's basically like a physics terminology. It's art is frozen music and music is liquid art. They're both the same thing. So when you're doing art, you're painting, you're drawing, it's a very slow process, because you're putting out creativity, you're getting it back. Music is faster, and within music, there's different domains playing acoustic instruments. So percussion is the lowest, then you have brass, then you have woodwinds, and at the very pinnacle, guess what? It's strings. And strings is what stimulate the most creativity. And you go, well, prove it. Okay, every single soundtrack and every single motion picture is a string soundtrack. And that's because that's the only thing that generates emotion. Disney and Marvel and all, they're not going to put kazoo solos on it, because it's the string soundtrack that gives the emotion. And they've done fun things. You could see a meme where they put like a little cute jazz tune behind Darth Vader, and he looks like a moron, right? Because when you don't have that dark music behind him, he doesn't have that depth. And so the music, the symphony music, the strings backed by brass, woodwinds, percussion, is what gives the knowledge to you, the heads up. Hey, this is going to be a love scene. This is going to be a hate scene. This is going to be excitement. This is going to be depressing. Whatever it is, the music is what gives you that basis. And with music, when you're playing music, you're in a constant creative act. And the constant creative act is that you're listening for how you're playing. You're listening for how everyone else is playing, and you are using your mind to create something. You're using your hands to create something. So it's on multiple levels. When you're playing an instrument, it's on multiple levels that stimulate creativity. And if you imagine it like an instrument, and again, I know you love string instruments and you don't, and you love playing, and so that's a awesome thing. But the point here is that you are also engaging in what I call human superpower. So you're a musician, and when you're playing, you're again distributing and creativity, and then you're gaining it back. And it's something that's a really powerful a powerful process, because part of creativity and the core creativity is that you ask questions, and questions, you all think, in school, the question is usually very limited to that subject at hand, and you all are guessing that it's just a kind of a request for information. How do I get here? How many years for this? Well, but the question is actually a metaphysical tool, and it opens a place in your mind for answers to fit. So you could do something else if you want to test that assumption out. Have somebody just talk to you for a minute without asking them any, a question, and you won't remember what they said. Then stop them and ask the question, like, okay, what are you going to do today? And they'll tell you and you'll remember it, because what happens is you open a place in your mind for answers to fit, and that is the core of creativity. But again, the administrators, teachers don't understand it, because even neuroscientists don't understand it. They don't even understand what's happening with music and emotion. So how can they understand creativity? So I've written a lot about that, and we'll share that information if you guys are interested. But in the end, the emotion that is driven by music, that is what allows you to then be creative with it. Any questions on that?
I have another question right here. I'm not sure whether
Absolutely.
he's gonna jump on the. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, he kind of like already kind of talked about it, but like music, like when you play it, right, you're given a sheet music, right, and you're
Right.
taught how to play it, and over time, you basically like remember it, and
Right.
it becomes like accustomed to like you just come robotic to it kind of thing, right? The more you play it, you get, like I said, you get accustomed to it, you remember it. So how is that like unleashing creativity? Because over time, like I said, you remember the sheet music.
Right. Well, two parts. One, when you're learning to do something, you have to be able to do something well in order to have creativity be productive, right? So, if an artist, Van Gogh or any great artist, they started off as not knowing how to draw. A great string player started off not knowing how to play. So you have to get to the point of having skills to be able to then use them more and more creatively. So in the process that you're doing it, and I'll address that, but you are learning a skill, whether art or music, and then the better you are at the skill, the better you can actually create within that domain. But what you're doing when you're learning to play, you're in continuous question mode. Because if you weren't in continuous question mode the entire time that you're playing, then you wouldn't care what you're playing. You wouldn't care if you sounded in tune. You wouldn't care if you were in tune with anybody else. You wouldn't care. And so you're always asking questions. And so that continuous flow of asking questions is what is getting the process, that feedback process of creativity. Because if you think about it in life, you're really not asking questions that many times. And when you're playing music, when you're trying to get better, you're constantly asking questions. That's why you're getting better. Even when you think, oh, it's the same thing, yeah, but you're asking questions, and as you're playing it, as you're getting better at it, you're learning, because again, you wouldn't get better if you weren't questioning how you were doing. And so that continuous process is part and parcel of the creativity process. Because every great invention always started with I wonder why, or like, why did this happen? So it's always a question. And so part of that, where you're learning, and even though it's the same music and you're getting better at it, you're still constantly asking questions. And so when you look
I think he wants to jump back to his
go for it. Interrupt anytime. Go ahead.
And extend his discussion right there.
Go for it.
The continuous flow that you're talking about, right?
Right.
Like you're always like wanting to learn, right?
Yes.
Isn't that for any other class as well, not just for music?
No, I mean, you happen to like music, right? So that's why you're in orchestra. But there's another class that you can't stand. You got to take it, right? So it's not for every other class. But things that you like, you'll have a passion for and creativity for it. That's why Steve Jobs said, if you don't have passion for what you do, there's no hope for you. You have to have passion for what you do, and so people are born with usually something that they like, and the more that they like something, the more they're going to be asking questions. So the more the subject that if you like math, right, then numbers speak to you. Like you look at calculations, you look at formulas, and they have a language for you. Just like Beethoven looked at a piano keyboard and it spoke to him. Like Michelangelo looked at just a block of marble and it speaks to him. I look at a block of wood and it speaks to me. So when we have passion for something, then yeah, you are internally asking questions. But if you don't like something, then yeah, it's hard to learn. And the reason is, and this again, we'll get deep on some things. I'll try to stick to at the kind of like the tip of the iceberg level, but the tip of the iceberg exists because there's an entire iceberg underneath. But basically, intelligence and emotion are two separate components. So you've always had emotion along with intelligence, so you always thought they go together. But there are people that have intelligence and they have no emotion. Those people are called depressed. So you can have intelligence, and if you don't have emotion, you can't have passion. And so again, we're looking at what art and music do is that they generate emotion within you, and that's and yeah, if there's a subject that you love, you know, engineering, you know, math, design, you know, something that you love, yeah, you're going to be passionate about it. And the entire time you're going to be asking questions because you're going to be interested. Like, how do I make this better? How do I learn this better? How do I learn this faster? Again, another thing you can do something you don't like. Say there's a class you don't like. It's always hard because when you don't like something, you don't have any passion for it. It's always like twice as hard. It's not that it's even difficult. It's just hard because you don't have any passion for it. So do something you don't like, a subject you don't like for 20 minutes, then take a break, and then do what Einstein did when he got stuck. Start playing your instrument for 20 minutes, play something you like, and you know, that you know, have an emotional connection. Then go back to that assignment for 20 minutes that you didn't like, and see if doing that assignment the second 20 minutes is going to be much easier. Because what happens is you're full of emotion, and then you're funneling that emotion into that subject, and all of a sudden, more times than not, it's going to be easier to understand. It's going to be faster to do. It's going to be easier to do because.
Anton, do you want to mention that again, just to repeat, just the process itself?
Okay, so 20 minutes on a subject you don't like. So you like math, don't do math. You don't like social studies, do 20 minutes of social studies, right? Or whatever it's called. So 20 minutes, then set that aside, play on your instrument for 20 minutes. Just not something that you have to rehearse, just something that just emotionally makes you feel good playing. And then go back to that same assignment and do it for another 20 minutes. And then compare. Is the second 20 minutes of doing that assignment and that schoolwork that you didn't like, is it easier now? Is it easier to do? Do you understand it better? Do you understand it quicker? Because usually it will be easier, it will be quicker to understand, you'll be able to do it faster. And the reason is because you've generated emotion, right? It's like generating, you know, if you want to use electricity in a generator, then you could use that for, you know, to power something. So you've generated this emotion, and now you're using it for the subject you didn't like because you didn't have passion for it, right? If you have passion for it, playing music is not going to do anything because it's like you have enough energy or emotional energy surrounding it already that adding a little more is not going to. But if you have like no emotional energy, you can't stand it, and all of a sudden you generate some emotional energy and then you funnel it into what you'll see that all of a sudden when intelligence is surrounded by emotion, you're able to do things better, faster, and easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Anton, you want to continue? You want to take some questions?
So like colleges and stuff, they have you take tests. But
Right.
I was thinking going to a trade school. Do you think it'd be better to, you know, like do internships and apprenticeships, or go to the college and actually learn how to do the trade?
Well, look, that's up to you, but you got to understand that college and the education system you're in now is going to be, you know, obsolete, you know, sooner than later. So you have to understand that, yeah, they need to test you to know where you are, and there's a whole system, right? You can't take down the whole system. I know you have to have great grades to, you know, to get into college and have, you know, good grades for a lot of the jobs. But then it just depends on what you're doing. Let me give you an example. I think in time, in a short while, we're going to have what I call triad apps. So let's say it's an engineering app, and these apps, right? The apps are not on are located on your phone. You know, you have a window to the app, but all the apps are located, you know, in the central database, be it in Google, Microsoft, Apple, wherever. And so they start having an engineering app, and it's using AI, big data, and quantum computing. And so let's say you have 1,000 engineers that are doing this work, doing tolerances for stadium, and they take a year to do. So 1,000 engineers working a year on these tolerances, other things in engineering. This app is going to do it in 10 minutes. Game over. So at that point, you have half the engineers, some with 10, 15, 20 years experience, some with a degree, some with 2 degrees, are now out of a job. So you're in engineering school and you're going to go, okay, what are you guys going to do? You're going to talk to the teacher, you're going to talk to the administrator, says, what are you going to do different than to make me successful and to make me relevant in this new age? And they're going to shrug and go, we don't know. So you're gonna be in a space where technology is gonna move that fast, and you already see that trucks and cars are self-driving. There's apps when they're combining AI and big data and quantum computing. They're beating doctors at analyzing disease. You can have your phone go over your skin and start analyzing what's wrong with you. So you have robotics making pizzas and burgers. So in the end, you're going to be in a society where you're going to come to your work and they're going to say, do something new today. So go ahead, do something new. How do you do it? Because the thing is, if you need to be told what to do, like you are in school, then they don't need you. They won't need you because you can tell AI and big data and quantum computing and these apps what to do, and they'll do it. So if you come to a society, and just think about it, you come to a society where if you're told what to do, you're no longer relevant. So every single thing that you do really has to come from you, has to be new. That's creativity, right? And so at that point, it's like, okay, what's going to stimulate it? What's going to make what's going to make that happen? And so the great part is that you're a musician, you have a superpower, and in time, the #1 curriculum in U.S. education is going to be music, because everything else is going to be learned and then be outdated, and you're constantly going to be using a smartphone. And this, you think, oh, it's just a really simple device. This is a multi-billion-dollar value device. You go, what are you talking about? It's only a few $100. It takes a multi-billion-dollar company to make this. It takes a multi-billion-dollar company to design it. It takes a multi-billion-dollar companies to have apps for it. It takes a multi-billion-dollar companies to have satellite infrastructures. So, when you have a desk, yeah, that's a couple of $100, but this is a value device that's multi-billion dollars. And you think, well, it's just a phone. But think about a mobile device being a little centimeter chip that can put 5 screens on any wall, a screen for a keyboard, and you could communicate with anybody you want and just type on any surface. And you can use apps and pay by the second, by the minute, by the hour that would take 1,000 engineers a year, you can do in 10 minutes. And that'll go to the financial field, that'll go for any field. So you're going to be going into a society that the only people that are going to be relevant are going to be the ones that can be creative and that can come to work and do something new every single time.
Sorry, Anton, we got another question here.
Go for it.
I think you got your answer right, so do go to school. Go ahead, Ram.
So in the future, I know you're talking about the current structure of schooling. Do you think sometime in the future that schools will shift towards like one specific subject that you're passionate in, or do you think that it's worthwhile to have kind of a well-roundedness in several subjects as well as your primary subject?
So this is the dichotomy that education will have to figure out, because it is much better to have well-rounded, much better to have well-rounded. And the reason is because if you're well-rounded, you can ask different questions. If you're like a horse with blinders like this, and you only know, again, I'm picking on engineering because everyone understands it, only know engineering, your ability to ask questions is limited. In the Renaissance, they learned everything. And because then they can ask questions, and they could, because in order to be creative, really creative, you need to ask divergent questions, and you can't ask divergent questions if you only know one specific field. So yeah, you will need to learn, if you want to be great at anything, science, engineering, any STEM, technology, right? Math, you're going to need to learn the arts, you're going to need to learn history, you're going to need to learn everything a little bit, and have that knowledge in order to be asking unique and divergent questions, to be highly creative. So that's one thing. It's absolutely better for you to be diverse. And again, I always refer to Steve Jobs because the guy changed 4 entire fields, right? Nobody's ever done what he's done. I mean, phones, computers, music, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And when he just went to college, didn't even sign up, just went to Stanford and hung out at in the calligraphy class, right? Because he was just interested in it. And it came that was important later on. So yeah, having diversity in knowledge is critical. At the same time, I don't see where colleges are going to be unique in having, say, a professor. If say there's like an unbelievable, fantastic professor on YouTube, teaching something, then they're the ones that are going to have all the students. So the college professor may have 20 kids that may have to take something in there, but there's somebody on YouTube that's got 20 million, right? Because they just knock it out of the park in terms of what they're teaching. So it may very well be that you have these superstar professors and superstar teachers sign special agreements with 10, 20 schools, right? And you can only find them in schools, and then they're not even online. But it's just like the YouTubers now. They start off little and then get bigger and bigger. So things will have to evolve. We'll see how it goes. But you guys are right in the middle of going to be a sea of change. So kind of right at the end of where college still makes sense. But as soon as you're going to have these apps, as soon as corporations are no longer going to require degrees, and they're going to test you on creativity with these weird quizzes, which is what they do, and that's how they hire. Then everyone's going to go, what's the point of paying $120,000 for a piece of paper that no corporation is interested in anymore? So you're kind of at the tail end of that, and technology, and you could see it. We
got about 3-4 minute warning here. So I got one more question, maybe another one, if you can briefly.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So would you say it's better, like for us, because a lot of us are gonna have to like go to college. So like, would you say it's better for us to just get an education where it's gonna be like affordable and just well-rounded, just get in, get out, and then figure the rest out?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, get like with everything you can, and then concentrate on things you're passionate in. But the main takeaway from this is that the instrument you're playing, that is what's going to stimulate creativity. It's not going to be an energy drink, which just makes you wired. It's just going to so it's the most important thing that you continue playing, because no matter what education does to you, like in terms of like making you this and making you take that and that you think is useless, as long as you're playing an instrument, your mind is rewiring your brain to be more creative. And again, you pass around the article on that, and you could see. But the idea is that, imagine everyone knows right now that if you want to be an athlete, you have to lift weights. 20 years ago and before, people didn't realize that. They thought if you lifted weights, you have to be a weight lifter. But now, I don't care if you're a swimmer, if you're a golfer, you lift weights. If you don't want to lift weights, don't be an athlete. Go get a desk job. So nobody questions the fact that you have to lift weights for physical workout in order to be an athlete. So nobody's going to question in the future that to be creative in any STEM field or any field that they're going to require that of you, you're going to have a cognitive workout with an instrument, playing an instrument. So all corporations now have a gym, and where you can work out. In time, all corporations are going to have ensembles, quartets, little ensemble, because they're going to go, okay, in order to keep our staff creative, they're going to need to be playing on instruments. So that's the main takeaway. That's the most important thing you're doing, and the fact that you love it. All your friends that aren't playing and thinking, oh, I'm doing something more relevant by taking this one extra class while you're playing on an instrument, they're not. They're losing out.
Another minute, one more minute, and we'll wrap up.
Go for it.
No, just you. How do you want to?
Me. Okay. No other question. Okay. So that's the basic idea, is that you're it's not hyperbole. Like, you're engaging this human superpower, because if that's the only thing that differentiates you from, from technology, it's kind of cool. We have, I don't know if anybody's seen Dune, read about it. The whole point of Dune was that,
Good stuff, Anton.
huh?
It was good.
Yeah, it's fantastic, but basically their society is the way it is because artificial intelligence, became powerful. But it's the fact that you're going to have to be creative and be better than artificial intelligence, right? Which has quantum computing and big data and everything else. So that's, you're not going to think faster than AI. You're not going to be able to memorize more information. You're not going to be able to do any of the things that school is now training you to do. The only thing AI will never be able to do is be creative, ever, because it's not going to have emotion. It's not going to have intuition, and it's not going to be able to ask divergent questions. So if you wonder, like, what is going to keep me relevant, and that's it. And anybody going into technology, you got to be more creative than anybody else. I did a presentation with IT students at the University of Nebraska, and they're scared out of their minds because it's like they'll go through 4 years and then they get in a job, and then all of a sudden Google, Microsoft, any other company gets software and it scales throughout the world, and they're not needed. Everyone still needs a plumber. Everyone still needs somebody to fix their steps, but writing code, writing technology, you could have that as centrally located at these huge corporations. So technology especially, you're going to have to be creative and playing on an instrument. That's what's going to keep you there.
Anton, thank you. Thanks a lot for coming into our classroom on the big screen.
Yeah, guys, do that thing where you do the 20 minutes of assignment you don't like, 20 minutes of playing, and 20 minutes after. We could do another talk if you sense that, hey, there was like a huge improvement in the ease and ability to do that.
You have shared the article with us, and then that exercise that we're talking about.
Share all that. Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, take care, Anton.